All right, guys. Oh, yeah, there we go. Uh, all right, guys. First off, as always, good day. Glad you're here. Um, this lesson, what we're going to be talking about, this section, is actually pretty important. It's pretty massive. It's on the Great Depression. Now, the thing is, there's so much to talk about with the Great Depression. This is one of those subjects that I was really going to get into and really just give you. I mean, I wanted to really explain to you how important the Great Depression was. I'm sure you've heard people talk about it, you've heard it in the news, you've seen it on social media, like, oh, this is the worst thing since the Great Depression. This hasn't been since the Great Depression. Um, because the Great Depression was massively huge. It was worldwide. It was just something that was unheard of at that time. It really was something that destroyed the world economy. Okay, so this is going to be a very large section. I'm trying to condense it down to like as much as I can. So basically, this whole thing is gonna be like 2 videos worth. I'm gonna try to explain it as best I can, the fullest I can, without putting too much into it. But that's very hard, guys, because this is a very important period in not only US history, but the world history. Okay. So, with that being said, here is your warm up picture. You guys should have your this on your Google Docs from the Google Classroom. It will be there. So like I've said before, I would suggest you uh, if you have a tablet or a computer that you kind of minimize this, kind of not like minimize, but like take half the screen for this and then the other half of the screen um, for your notes. Okay. And that way you can still see and hear the lecture, but then you also have um, your worksheet on the side so you can answer the questions as we're going through. Okay, now if I understand some of you guys are using your phones and you can't switch between the video and um, what the form, the worksheet. So in that case, what I would suggest is like on a scratch piece of paper, somewhere, just write down the questions, and then when we get to it, you can pause the video, or you can write down on that little scratch piece of paper, your ideas, your response to it, and then when you go back to the form, you can type it up. Okay. So here's your warm up. Okay. So on that worksheet, there's 2 questions. Okay. Go ahead and answer those. If you're still answering them, I would press pause right now because we're going to move on to the notes in 3, 2, 1. All right. So the Great Depression, or which is also known as the Crash of '29, in the 1920s, the United States had this really strong economy. We were making money hands over fist. Okay. The thing is, it's a matter of World War One just ended. Okay. So our country did not really get touched land-wise. Buildings weren't destroyed, things like that. We had a working relationship with Britain, France. Um, we will later on be helping out Germany get back on their feet. And with helping Germany, Germany's able to pay back countries that they owed money to. And then those countries were going to give us money. And on top of that, buy stuff from us. And that also opened the door for American company or investors to invest in companies in Europe. So that made then the European companies in European countries richer. So everyone's making money, but mainly in the US. Okay. So we're going to get to that in a second. Basically, the United States wealth doubled in the 1920s up until 1929. And that's why this era is called the Roaring Twenties, because everybody seemed like they were making money. Um, One of the best ways that people were making money was through the stock market, which is located in New York on Wall Street. Okay. And this is where people invest money. They put money into companies, and if the companies makes money, then they get a piece of that money. Okay. It's like if you're a friend of yours saying, "Hey, I want to start a business. I need some money, and if that there's so many, however much money I make a profit, you get half of it." So after like maybe a year or two, and let's say they make $10,000 profit, you get $5,000 of it, and you may have only given them $200. Okay, now that's you're investing that money into something that may or may not work. Okay, you're giving that little, it's kind of like a gamble in a sense. Okay, so as time goes on, you're gonna get some money back because hey, they told you you'll get half of the money as a profit or whatever maybe the agreement is. Um, Everybody at this point was putting money into the stock market. Um, Everyone from millionaires to the low income people because they saw, man, this the market's going good, the market's going great. Um, and the problem is that low income people, they instead of saving their money, they would put it into the stock market. And like I said, it's a gamble. It really is. And it's not a guaranteed thing that when you put money into a company that's going to succeed. Sometimes it's going to fail. Okay. So a lot of these low income people are like, oh, I'll put money in there. And sometimes they're only making a little bit of a profit. Not much, but still something. It's a little profit. So let's say they invest $100. After 3 months, they may get like a couple bucks back. So they're like, keep letting it ride. The company's doing good. It might go up a little bit more, things like that. Okay. So the market basically is going up, up, up. I mean, just going quick in expansion, and it reached its peak in 1929. Now you're going to hear this term used especially when you get to economics, and if you listen to the Wall Street people, they use terms like bear and bull. Okay, now this illustration should help you out to understand the difference. Okay, a bull market is when the economy is on the rise, thing going good. So it's going to rise up and it's stable. So think of like a bull charging, and they see, the old saying, they see red, so they charge, um, so they're going to go up. Okay. The bear, on the other hand, is when things are starting to go down and decrease in value. Um, as a bear, usually they bring things down, they tear things down, they knock things over, right? So if that helps you to understand it, great. Okay, so remember, bull is when the stock market's going up, bear is when it's coming down. Okay, here is where some little trouble comes in. The factories in the United States production actually declined, and unemployment kind of went up a little bit. All right, so everything wasn't as hunky dory, but the numbers on Wall Street was going up and up. All right, the problem is the stock prices were so much higher than what they actually were. Let's say a company is doing well at first, so the stock is going up. And at a certain point, they're like, okay, we're not making as much. We can't make as much. We need to expand, but we can't. So they're stale. But people are still investing in that company to do good. So the numbers keep going higher and higher, but they're down here. They're still at this level. Okay. So that's what it's the little bubble comes into. This is where it's at. This is where it's projected to be. And the price, the stock is way up here. Okay, so that's where the little problems start to happen. On top of that, the wages for workers, the money they were getting, it's starting to go down a little bit. Okay, at this time, there is no minimum wage. There is no, hey, the lowest you can get paid is this. There's not that at all. So if a company really wanted, they could tell somebody, hey, we're going to let you go. Somebody said they'll work for $12 an hour instead of 15, like you. How about this? Will you work for 10? Okay. And if you say yes, look at they just saved $5 an hour from just you. You know, Imagine if the company had 100 and some workers and they saved, let's say, $5 from each one of them. That's $500, you know. So that's what some companies would do. Okay. Uh, and then some citizens were actually going in debt, but they would use this thing called credit. Okay. And we're going to get to that in a little bit too. To kind of pay for things, they would use credit. Also, farmers were struggling because there was a drought. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have heard the word before, but just in case you haven't, a drought means there's no water, like there's no rainfall, no water in the mountains, no snow came down, so it's like dry as a bone, you know. And as you guys know, you can't grow something if there's no water, okay? And this is going to come back later on. And because there's no water and you can't grow anything, that means that you can't grow as much. And since you can't grow as much, that means there's going to be less food. And because there's less food, that means the price of it is going to go higher. Right? Remember, supply and demand. If there's very little of something, the price goes high. Okay? Because again, it's rare. Um, it's like a let's say if this item right here, this phone, it's the only one left in the world, the price for this would jump up immensely. All right? Because people would want to use it, you know. But if you find these phones, I mean, on the ground, in trash cans and things like that, are you going to pick mine up for me? No, because it's you can find it anywhere, you know. So that's the thing. When there's a lot of something, the price goes down. When there's very few of it, the price goes up. Okay, it's like a teeter totter. Have you ever seen those things? And lastly, banks made large loans that they couldn't sell to other banks. Okay, so banks would actually loan money to people and they would say, okay, now we want our money back. Sometimes, because again, people's um, the money they were getting from work was lower, sometimes those people couldn't pay. They still had those loans, they still had to pay them off, but uh, the banks were like, well, we lent you the money, you lost it, we want it back. The people were like, well, we can't pay you back. So now those banks have the loans and they can actually sell it to other banks or other investors who are like, yeah, I want that person to owe me money, so I'll buy the loan from you. But it got to the point where the banks had so many loans, so many big loans that no investor, no company would buy or other banks would buy those loans. So they're stuck with them. And you're going to see in a couple slides why that's a big problem. All right, so during the summer of 1929, consumers didn't spend as much because again, their wages are down, things like that. So they're like, I'm not really gonna spend that much money on something I don't really need. I'll probably buy like stuff like groceries and maybe pay the rent and pay some like electric bill, things like that. But just to get a new dress or to buy a new car when I don't need it right now, I'm good. And this created a stockpile of goods in the stores because the stores, remember, people were buying stuff left and right. So it's like they keep ordering things. Bring more of this, bring more of that. Make it buy a shipment of this because people are buying it. And all of a sudden, people are like, nope. Well, now the stores are stuck with those things, and some of those things are perishable goods, meaning that they're not gonna last that long. So things like, let's say, an apple. You know, how long is an apple gonna last just sitting on the table? It's not that long. So they're gonna rot, and companies would lose money from that because who's gonna buy a rotten apple? Nobody. Okay. And this caused some factories all of a sudden slow down. They're like making stuff, and also no one's buying. Well, now the stores are like, well, no, 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 we don't need it anymore. Nobody's buying it. Now the companies are like, "Oh, okay, well, everyone slow down now. Stop making so much of it." And it basically brought everything down to a crawl. Whereas just a year ago, people are moving, making things, and selling things and buying things. Now they're down to a crawl. Things are going slower. Okay. With all this going on, the stock market still continues to grow. Like I told you, the production is slowing down, going down here, the price of the stock of the company keeps going up and up and up and up. Okay. Um, with all this going on, it shouldn't have been going higher. It should have been like, whoa, 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 wait, they stopped down here. So maybe the prices are going to go down. Because again, they're not making as much. They're not making as much money. So we should come down, down, down. But again, these people are investing. No, no, they're going to do good. So they keep putting more money in, more money in, more money in. Okay. Now, those people who are seriously like looking at things, at the whole picture, they're like, yeah, this is not right. These stock prices are going way too high. Production's slowing down. People's wages are down. People are not buying. Those numbers should not be going up. And it made some people nervous. Like, what's going to happen if all of a sudden everyone realizes, that things are going to go bad? Okay. Um, and there was no way you could sell the stock at that high, you know, when it's really down here, you know. And they projected that basically the stocks were going to start falling in the fall of 1929. And that's exactly what happened. On October 24th, 1929, investors really started to realize now, not in late July and August, but rather in October, they finally realized, oh my God, um, these stocks are overpriced. So they starting selling, sell, 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 sell. They're trying to sell it at this high price when they know it's worth down here. So they're trying to make that money up here, and they're trying to sell, 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 sell. And the thing is, it's causing a panic. Now people are like, oh my God, well, what about this company? How about this? And they start selling all the stuff. Um, and this caused a crash. People are selling the stock like crazy, and people are losing their minds and trying to sell, trying to make a profit somehow, and they're selling, selling, selling. I wish you guys could watch the stock market when things go bad, because there's a live feed on it too sometimes on the cable, and you can see when things are starting to go bad how those stock market people react, because they're shouting, they're screaming, they're throwing their hands up, and it's just crazy. But just imagine the whole building of people like this just yelling and screaming and trying to sell and sell what they have so that their clients and themselves can make some money. It's like a madhouse. um, 12.9 million shares, not dollars, shares. So each share may have been worth on average maybe $20, $100, whatever it may be. That's a lot of money lost. And it was known as a Black Thursday. This is a picture from that day. Those guys are leaving, the stock market people, they're leaving that day. And you see some of them are just like, what just happened? What in the world just happened? The thing is, some people are very hopeful. They're figuring, okay, well, maybe today was just a glitch. Maybe things will pick up, tomorrow, which would be the Friday, and then on the weekend, things can get better. Okay, yeah, things will get better. This is just a little fluke. Yeah, the market has bad days. This was just a really bad day. Maybe it'll be better. So here's the thing. Um, some people who were optimistic were like, okay, things will get better. Those people who were not too optimistic and who were more like worried about their pocketbook were like, we're going to sell. Things are going bad. Let's sell now. Let's get out of it while we can, because I don't think it's going to be that great. So on October 29th, 1929, just 5 days later, it became known as Black Tuesday, and 16 million shares were traded and sold. And again, it caused a panic. People freaking out. I mean, again, I wish you guys can just imagine people just shouting and screaming in the building, sell, 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 just trying to, get rid of their stock. Millions and upon millions of shares were basically worthless. Some investors who bought stock on credit or borrowed money, it's called marginal, they were wiped out completely. Everything they owned was basically like, we own that now because you have no money. So you have to liquidate everything you own to pay back um, for that money you borrowed. Okay, so some people lost everything in the day. Some millionaire people lost everything. Some people didn't. Depends on how much they put in, how much they invested, when they got their money out, things like that. But yeah, it was really, really bad. Uh, Many people tried to take their money out of the banks, but here's a problem. Unlike nowadays, the banks, when you put money in, what they did is when they loaned out that money, remember I told you about the loaning, they would use your money to give to somebody else. And if you came back and you said, "Oh, I want my money back," oh, well, we've already gave it out to somebody. We can give you part of that money back, not everything, but we can give you some. And they would give you money back that more likely was somebody else put into the bank. And let's say the bank got robbed, for some reason or whatever. Um, that was your money that got taken away. That's it. Your money's gone. Okay. So it wasn't as how it is now, which we will get into not in this video, but the next video, um, where it's federally insured. They didn't have that back then. Okay. Uh, so, in other words, they didn't have the money they needed in their vaults. A lot of the times, a lot of banks did not have the money, especially in small towns. They didn't have that money. So, some banks, um, if you put all of everyone's paperwork together, the banks should have like $8,000 in their vault, but in reality, they only had maybe 2,000, 3,000. But all the people around them put $8,000 into that bank because of the loans, and they would pay off, people and things like that. They only had very little money, and that's why they hope on the loans. That's why they put the interest rate, so that they can at least make some money back. That's how banks make their profit, through the interest rates on loans. Okay. All right, so here is one of your questions. Do you think that putting your extra money into the stock market is a smart thing to do, or is a risk worth not taking? Okay, so think about that for a second. You say you're working at a job, and if you really do have a job, think about that. If you have some extra money, right? You paid off your bills, your phone, things like that. If you're renting an apartment, things like that, or renting a room, you paid off everything. You have some extra money. Do you think it's wise to invest that money into a stock market, into a company, things like that? Now, like I said on the red part, remember putting your money in the stock market does not guarantee you a profit. Okay, sometimes you will lose. Sometimes your profit may not come right away. It might take some time, you know. Um, And another thing too is, especially nowadays, if you take your money out, let's say you put money in the stock market, and you're like, and you put in $100, and it end up being going to $200, and you're like, take it out. Well, you can get taxed on that. I don't think it's that low that you get taxed, but I think it's like if you put higher amount of money, which a lot of people do, they get taxed on that. Okay, so what do you think? Okay, and so there's a writing prompt. There's a thing on the bottom. Uh, Guys, please, please, please use the writing prompt. Okay. So write out the whole thing, type it out. I think that putting my extra money into the stock market do you think it's a smart thing to do or not worth the risk? I believe this because, and explain why did you choose that one? All right. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you really believe. Okay. Um, and please, please use logical, sense. Don't just put, I believe this because I do. What's that? That's not a logical explanation. Okay. So back it up. Why do you believe this? Okay. Um, so I would suggest if you're writing it right now, pause the video right now because we're going to be moving on to the next part of notes. All right. So here's the thing. People really lost confidence in spending the money on unnecessary things. Um, so things like my little pop figures over here. Some people in my family were like, "Oh, Carlos, you're spending your money on that. That's not." Well, that's for me. So yes, I agree with them. It's not a necessity. You know, um, food, rent, um, the utilities, electricity, water, all that stuff. That's a necessity. Those little pop figures, they're not a necessity. So again, people were like, "Why do I need to buy that?" Things like that. Why do I need to buy, um, a new car or a newer jacket? I'll just buy. If I need to buy a jacket, I'll just get a used one. You know, Still same thing. And since nobody was investing anymore, they were now holding on to their money like, I mean, it's like nobody's business. Um, this made the spending um, for factories slow down, even made production slow down. So now they're like, well, we can't hire new people. What's the point? We're basically making very few stuff. So why hire new people? And in fact, they got to the point where they started saying we need to fire some people because what's the point of having around just twiddle our thumbs and they're getting paid? No point. So people start getting fired. Um, those who were able to get a job, or should they keep their job, basically they saw their pay dwindle down. Because again, like I told you before, factory people would be like, "Hey, you know what? We need to we need to have some cutbacks. We'd love to keep you on, but your pay's got to come down a little. Because if you say no, Ted over there, he'll do. He said he'll do it. You know, so instead of getting paid $10, he's willing to go down to 7. So you think you can go like 6? And if the person goes, how about 650? Oh, I think Ted can go 650. And you know, I don't know. So that's how they would do it, and people's pay went lower and lower and lower and lower. Um, and this forced again a lot of Americans to use credit. Okay, credit is basically back then, especially back then, was like your word. I promise I'll pay you. Some places, even like now, they give you a limit of how much you can spend at a particular place or on a specific card. The more responsible you are, the more you pay your bills on time, the bigger you are allowed to get from your credit card and stuff like that. Okay. Same thing here. If you had a credit at a grocery store, and let's say at the end of the week you owe $20 and you paid that $20, they don't mind then giving you a little bit more credit because hey, you paid it on time, so you're good for it. Okay. And some people ran up their credit everywhere, and it really hurt them later on. Now, some of these people who bought stuff on credit before the crash can't pay for that stuff now. So a lot of their stuff got repossessed, furniture, um, cars, clothing, things like that. It got taken back by the companies. We're like, hey, well, are you going to pay for it now? Because you missed on some payments. So, okay, no, give it back. We'll come and get it. Um, and the thing is, this was not limited to the United States. Like I told you, the United States invested in other parts of the world and mainly in Europe. Now, back then, the money was backed up by gold. So the more gold you had in your country had, the stronger your dollar was. Okay, now if you kept printing out money, that made the value of the dollar less because now instead of $1 equaling 1 pound of gold, let's say, if you start printing out a bunch of dollars, that dollar is going to be worth less than that pound. It's going to go then half a pound, then quarter of a pound, then 16th of a pound, and to the point where if you keep printing out money, it's going to be worth like a speck of gold, which is nothing, you know. Um, and because of this currency exchange of the gold and stuff like that, Um, this caused a problem worldwide, and basically the whole world was in the Great Depression with us because we were invested in other parts of the world, and basically everything went, the money system went down the chute. It's worthless now. And some countries that were already hurting because of World War One, now their money, like Germany, was basically worthless. It's like having this, you know, tissue paper um, for uh, for money. You know, I use this as a coaster for my drinks here, um, but the thing is, that would be like money back then in the Great Depression. It was useless. $100 bills, basically worthless. Now here's the thing. President Herbert Hoover, who was the president at the time, he was a Republican man, and he, along with other world leaders, felt that, you know what, hey, everyone relax. This thing is going to run its course. We'll be back on our feet. Don't worry. You know, the markets know how to work themselves out. It didn't. By 1930, 4 million Americans were out of work. Later, that would be jumped up in a year to 6 million. So an additional 2 million people would be out of work in a year. Um, Basically, Herbert Hoover felt, oh, businesses should can take care of themselves. Government doesn't need to intervene. So again, production, the country cut by half. People losing their jobs everywhere. The total number of homeless people rose higher and higher and higher. Um, Everywhere, not just in little tiny towns, but big cities as well. Um, People were homeless. You know, they were kicked out of their apartments. Some, I know, I've heard some students tell me in the past, oh, someone, you know, why would they kick people out if somebody lived there? You know, oh, I would have just not left. Well, that's when they would get the cops to kick you out. And some students say, well, they would just leave it, you know, nobody lived there. It's like, no, some people, some landlords would actually let like relatives, you know, people who lost their homes, people who are related to them, live in those places. Because for one, they're helping out family, and two, um, nobody's going to rent from that place because nobody has money. So might as well help up your own family, you know. So some places they were empty, they were boarded up. Some places there were squatters, people who just live in a place, you know, just because it's abandoned or no one's there. And sometimes the landlords had family members live there, you know, to help them out. Okay. Another big thing that happened was the soup lines and the soup kitchens and the bread lines. Um, One of the most famous was from Al Capone, the famous gangster from the 1920s and 30s. He opened up a soup line in Chicago, and some people thought, oh, he's such a nice guy, things like that. But in reality, he was doing this to kind of like, um, you know, not get busted by the cops and to be on the good side of people, you know. So when the FBI or other higher government officials tried to arrest him for bootlegging, you know, which was illegal at that time, the prohibition, which you guys should have learned about in the other lesson, he would then be protected by the people because they saw as, oh, he's protecting us, he's providing for us. Whereas Herbert Hoover, the guy who's trying to bust him, hasn't done anything for me. He actually made me lose my job. See? All right, so here is a scenario for you. This is your question. If you were president at this time, what would you do? And explain why. So here's your two scenario, your thing. You're the president. You have one advisor, somebody who says you should do this, you should do that. One of them says you should tell the American people the truth about how bad things are and how bad they can be. The flip side is if you do this, there's a chance that people will panic. and there will be total chaos because some people will be like, well, if things are going to be really bad for so long, well, I might as well just do this and that. I might as well do, what I can to survive. So there might be chaos. There might be riots in every major city and town, in the United States. And people might actually revolt against you. Like, why have you there? You're not doing anything for us. What are you doing? You know, um, and if you think to yourself, oh, the military will protect me, get the remember the military, they're in the same boat as the average American. So they might turn a blind eye. People storming into the White House, they might be like, they'll stay at their post, but she'll be like, hmm. Or they may even join in. Okay. You have another advisor who tells you to downplay it, to reassure the American people things are going to get better. Things are going to be, it's just temporary. You know. Now, if you do this, there's a large chance that this will damage everyone's spirits because you already know more than likely it's not going to get better right away. Um, the people's spirits will be hurt. Their faith in you and in the government is going to be shattered. They're going to look around going, there's no hope. There is no hope. We are being lied to. They say it's going to get better. It hasn't. What else are they lying up to us about? And they will look at you personally, as a person who not only let the US, but the whole world's economy go down the toilet. So, with that, which one would you choose? All right. So, which advisor would you listen to and which advice would you take? So, there's your writing prompt on the bottom. If I were the president during the Great Depression, I would, and how you see how I put the green line? Those are your options. Okay. So, write those down. I would tell the American people the truth, or I would downplay it. Okay. So, be sure you put the whole thing because, and explain to me why you picked that one over the other one. Okay. I know it's a bad case and you're like, well, there's no win to it. Guys, sometimes in life, there is no win. You just have to pick the worst, the not so bad tasting poison. Okay. It's the way things are. Sometimes there is no happy ending to things. And in this case, in this scenario, there really isn't. So which one would you do? Now, more likely knowing these are your options and these are the possible repercussions of your choice. Okay. And the president does do one of these two things. And you're going to see what happens. So if you're still writing, pause the video, keep writing. If you're done, let's move on. All right, so still during the Great Depression, farmers were really hurt the hardest. Farmers, when things go wrong in our economy, they are usually the first ones to get hit, almost always. Now, these farmers who had large plots of land, because remember, during the South and during the Civil War and the Reconstruction era and some of that, a lot of these farmers would basically keep buying more land, more plantation land. So they had huge amounts of land and they could grow crops, things like that. They would hire, poor people to pick the fruit. And the thing is, that now in the Great Depression, they couldn't hire those people anymore, and no one's going to work for little to nothing. So a lot of people just say, you know what, I might as well go elsewhere. And they couldn't hire people to pick the crops. So all these farmers and let's say they had 8 kids, they could not pick all the vegetables, all the fruits or whatever if they had let's say 100 acres of land. There's no way in the world, even if they worked from sun up to sundown, they cannot pick that. Your physically body cannot, if you never picked fruit before or dug out vegetables, some of that, it's backbreaking work, and there's no way you can go all day and all night doing that. It's impossible. So a lot of that food rotted into the ground. Okay. Again, like I was telling you, in the 30s there was this huge drought in the middle of the country, and that made the topsoil basically get come to the top and dry up and basically be like sand. And it made plants difficult to grow on because again, it's just like hard dirt below, and then there's like it's kind of like sand on top. Now the thing is, there was this large, heavy winds that went through the middle of our country, and it picked up that topsoil dirt and just lifted up into the air. Now it's one thing to see a little thing of dust just come up and ooh, it looks so pretty, but imagine tons and tons of this dirt being picked up. This became known as a dust bowl. It's like imagine a blanket of dust coming through, and not only just like a little, oh my god, it's kind of like looks foggy. No, I'm talking pitch black dirt coming through you. It's like a blanket, and that picture right there is that's not clouds or anything behind. That's dirt behind them coming at them, and it basically went from day into night. The dirt, the sand was so thick with the that it blocked out the sun. Okay, the dirt was not. It's just like oh, you could just go through and just be like oh, yeah, I'm good. No, that dirt would suffocate you. It would get into your nose if you took a big breath of it. It's like how can I say it? It's like if you've ever went through if you're somebody who's cooking chili in your house and you ever got that whiff of it, you're just it just like, hits you. It's basically like that, but this is pure dirt and it's in your lungs, in your nose, in your mouth. And if any of you guys ever had like sand in your mouth, it's like, you know, so same thing. That dirt would suffocate people, cattle, and it would basically kill off plants, those that were able to grow. It would kill them off. Now, here's the thing when the dirt got kicked up, the dirt actually went from Texas all the way to the East Coast, right? Imagine dirt going from basically like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and landing all the way to like New York, you know, North Carolina, South Carolina, you know, into the Atlantic Ocean. It swept through that East Coast area. It's estimated that there was 350 million tons of soil that kicked up. All right, now if you don't know, a ton is 2,000 pounds. So times 350 million times 2,000 pounds. That's quite a bit. And this forced a lot of people from the middle of the country to say, you know what, everything that's going on, um, you know, the banks taking away farms, the farms not growing anything. A lot of people decided, you know what, we should migrate to the west, and California was the state to go to. Um, this picture right here is one of the most famous, absolutely most famous pictures from the Great Depression. It's known as a migrant mother. This mother, I believe she had 6 or 7 kids. Um, she basically had to sell her tires on her car, and she's stranded. She was picking, I believe it was peas at that place that they were picking, and it was frozen peas, and that's what they were eating basically, just frozen peas. And she's basically stuck. How is this woman whose husband died some years before, and she has to take care of like 7 kids, and I don't know if you can really see, she has a newborn in her hand basically. It's a little kid, and you got these other kids behind her, and you can see in her face just that look of like, what am I gonna do? And that was the face, that was the worry of so many Americans back then. What am I gonna do next? All right, so this is the last slide before your last question. Okay, so please bear with me. I told you this is big. Okay, and there's actually a part two to this. Okay, so in the fall of 1930, they had this thing called the banking panic. Uh, and the thing is, investors lost confidence in how much money banks can make, or if they could make any more money. And they wanted their money right away because they're like, well, you're not going to get the money from these people you loan money to. So I might as well get my money out now since you have it right now. I might as well take it. And again, like I said, banks back then didn't really have all the money to cover everybody that put money into them because they lent that money out in hopes that people would pay them back. But again, because of the money, wages going down, the stock market crashing, farms not making money, companies not making money, they cannot make their money back. Um, Now, the thing is, people would rush, like the scene in the picture, people would rush to the banks to try to get their money back. And the banks sometimes had to say, we're out, the vault's empty. We have no more money. I have no money in my pocket. I can't give you anything. This happened several times in the fall of 31, the fall of 32, and by the winter of 1933, thousands of banks were shut down. They were like locked up. They were no money whatsoever. The banks were bankrupt. Okay. Um, Now Hoover tried to support the failing banks by kind of like loaning them money to give to people and to pay for the employees, and he figured that will help the economy. Then people will have money and then they'll spend money. And when they spend money, then the companies will get money and the companies will then hire people and that will get the economy going again. Problem is, it didn't work. At this point, people are so paranoid, people are so scared to spend money that they're holding on to it to just buy the bare necessities, the basic things, and they're not going to spend their money on stuff they really don't need. All right, so here is your last question. It's basically asking you to rank. So create your own ranking of the hardships that people went through the Great Depression, and explain at the very end why you put that number one up there. You know, so which one of these do you think was the hardest thing for people? Excuse me. One, that they lost their job and they couldn't get another one. Okay, excuse me. I don't think I mentioned that. A lot of people, if they lost their job, they could not find another job anywhere else. People eating mostly water soup and a couple of pieces of bread a day. That's it. Those soup lines and the bread line, that's basically all they had. Some people, that's all they had all day. Just a couple bowls of soup, mainly water. Maybe some other stuff in there. Maybe some pieces of meat, vegetables, something. But mainly it's water. And you have to remember, the more people came into the soup kitchens, the more water they had to put, so it diluted the flavor. The thick blanket of dust that covered towns for days. People dying, animals are dying, uh, people can't go outside. It's a large, hard wind of pure dust and dirt, and you can't see, or banks being unable to give you your money back. So sit here for a second, look at this list, think about all the stuff I've talked about, and rank them. Which one do you think was the hardest one? Which one do you think was the next hardest one, and third hardest one, and the fourth hardest one? And explain why you felt that way. Why did you put that one on top, that first one? You know, why did you put that one for second? Explain to me why you feel those were the hardest ones. Okay. So, with that being said, that's the end of this lesson. I hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, guys, I would suggest that to really understand the impact of this and the hardships of this, put yourselves in those people's shoes, you know, and you can realize that this was not just something that was like, oh, it happened, boom. No, I mean, these were people's lives at stakes, and it's very hard. It was hard, extremely hard for them. And it just seems like if you didn't realize that one bad thing after another that's happening, and it's like a domino effect of bad things. Okay. So there's that. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. The next part of the Great Depression is going to be coming up pretty soon. So keep your eyes out for that. And that's it. Okay, so again, hope you had fun. Hope you learned something new. Um, I really miss you guys. Please, please, please stay safe, guys. Take care of one another. Take care of your families. All right. Um, you guys stay safe. Okay. See you later.